What's the perfect guitar for beginners? You see a lot of cool guitars here around me, a lot of different guitar styles. And every guitar has its own personality. I mean, they do not only share the same amount of strings, they also share some other stuff, but in some terms they are quite different. I mean, of course, you've heard of the terms of acoustic guitars like this one, or maybe this one. And you've heard of electric guitars, like this beauty here, or, of course, a more common one, but not less cool to me, this Strat here, just a classic guitar, of course. You're probably pretty much overwhelmed by the amount of guitars out there and the styles out there, and you don't know how to choose, or you don't know what instrument to choose for your first time as a guitar player. There are rumors out there that I've heard of course, which say you should definitely start on a acoustic guitar like this, which is also called a classic or classical guitar. But to me, this is all not true. Because, first of all, this guitar is called a classical guitar because it's obviously used for classical music like Bach, whatever. Or there are also guitars in a pretty similar style which are meant for flamenco. But of course, this guitar is also used in pop music, for example. But to me, it has a certain sound to it. And for example, a song like this you might know. Really known song by Eric Clapton, and this song was played on a classical guitar. And you already heard the sound, it's quite mellow and soft. I played it with the fingers, not with a pluck, but of course you can also play it with a pluck. But this is already a whole different thing and has its own sound. If you go and take another acoustic guitar, you get something like this. I mean, different brands, colors, whatever, shapes maybe. But here, the strings are not made out of nylon or plastic, like it is on here in parts. The upper three strings on this guitar are made from plastic. The others are some wound strings. And this guitar here, the black one, has its own sound too, because those strings are all made of metal for playing stuff like this. A nice instrument to strum on. It has its very own sound. It sounds way more percussive than the other one, more edgy, and it's used on so many recordings in pop music, in rock music, in country, whatever. Such a versatile instrument, but it feels also a little bit. The neck is thinner than on a classical guitar, but that also means it's easier to grab the neck because it's smaller, but it's also the strings are closer to each other. So one might find that better. The other one would say, oh, I like this one here because I have much more space to put my fingers on the strings. But to me, it's more important to listen to the sound again and to really see what's your favorite sound. Why are you looking for playing the guitar? Now we're coming to the electric guitars, of course, and this opens up again another whole different world here because we have so much variety in terms of sound. Distortion, you also might have a guitar which is capable of more cleaner sounds, of course. There's so many different styles. I just want to make sure you get an image of the sounds that are possible with all of those guitars. You can also, of course, pluck the strings on guitars like this and play. You see, you can do a lot of cool and calm stuff on an electric guitar, of course, too. And this feels more in terms of the neck and the strings, which are all out of metal too, more like a guitar like this, like an acoustic Western guitar, you also call it. So this is a classical guitar, this is a steel string Western guitar, this is an electric guitar, of course, because you need an amplifier for it. This is closer together in terms of how it feels on the neck. Electric guitar has not that heavy strings usually on it, so it plays a little easier, of course, especially for solo lines. If you This is more the style you do on an electric guitar. Of course you can play solos. Of course you can play solos on acoustic guitars. But for a certain style, it's more common to play it on an electric guitar. And of course we have models like the really nice one here in the back. It's beauty. Which is also, again, a different model. I mean, to be true, we guitar players also listen with our eyes. We want to look good on stage. So this might be something you just always dreamed of, and then it would really not make any sense to start on a guitar like this because someone told you to start on something like this. Again, the neck is thinner, of course, than on such a guitar like this. This can be to your advantage or to your disadvantage. It depends on your taste. But to me, it's more important that you check yourself and ask yourself, what music do you want to play on a guitar? If you're not sure, if you want to play something heavy like this, and if you don't want to rock out that heavy, you should probably try to play at least without distortion and play more something like this. And so on. You know the thing. I just wanted to play to you. You have versatility on electric guitars, but still this is a rock song. So you might ask yourself the questions, am I more like a guy or a girl who wants to play not that much of heavy rock music? Then you should probably stick to an acoustic guitar. So now for beginners, because this was the entrance question, to me it's way more important that you check out for yourself, if you're a beginner, what music do you like? And if you've not that kind of a perfect answer for you, I would recommend you to go into a store or order one online if that's not possible because the music store is too far away from you, to order at least one of those guitars and just start out. I would recommend you then to start on an acoustic guitar because it's an instrument where you can really start out on your own without an amplifier, and it's really an instrument where you can play a lot of stuff on, of course, and you can take it anywhere you want and you already have sound with you. I mean, of course, there are possibilities doing that with an electric guitar too, but to me it's easier for a beginner to say, okay, let me just strum some chords and stuff. And then I would just ask yourself the question, which sound do you like better? Do you like this more really mellow and warm sound of a classical acoustic guitar, or are you more into those classic Western guitar styles? I played some really cheesy classics here, but I just want to make sure you know what we're talking about, what kind of music we're talking about. I mean, of course, you can also play rock songs and you can rock out on an acoustic guitar. So this will sound so much different on this guitar here. They all make sense in their own way. They all have 6 strings and they all share the same voicings and chords and chord progression theory is all the same on them. What you learn on a guitar like this, you can adapt on a Western guitar and on an electric guitar, of course. But to me, you should ask yourself, what sound do you have in mind? What artists do you love? Take a look on Google what instruments they play, if you're not sure about that. And this is the most important question to choose a guitar for you as a beginner. And of course, looks are also important. Let's start now by answering the question why your guitar sounds like crap. There are several reasons why your guitar may sound not good, or you think, well, this does not sound at all like I want it to sound. First thing might be that your guitar is out of tune. I mean, this sounds kind of easy, but maybe you have not heard of a tuner. It's an easy thing to put it on your guitar. This is a clip tuner, whatever. There are several ways to tune your guitar. You can also have a smartphone app. And you really need to check out if your guitar is in tune or not. I mean, I will just detune one string and you will hear how crappy that sounds. So you see, I mean, all the other strings are in tune, but one detuned string in there, not good. But I have another video where I show you how to tune your guitar and what ways they are. So this might be reason number one. Make sure your guitar sounds really in tune. Next thing might be that you push too hard, that you push your chords too hard on the fretboard. Your fingers are too aggressive because you're not used to those movements, and this can be a reason. I mean, take a listen. If I play a chord way too hard, how much? The sound differs when I push too hard. I play a normal chord. I can detune the string by just pushing too hard here. You hear that? And if you do that on several points of the fretboard within a chord, it can really sound out of tune. When I play with a lot of less power, it still sounds good, but not that slightly detuned, which might become an even bigger problem if you push too hard. Same thing could be that you don't push hard enough. I mean, this could happen. I just played a G chord and none of the frets I should press down were pressed down enough. So it sounded like I only hear the middle strings here where I don't have any fingers on, but the rest is kind of killed, so it sounds really crappy. Or you have one note that is ringing and the others aren't, like, or making this noise. This always has something to do with the position, how your fingers push down and where they are placed. So take a look where your fingers are pushing down. For example, that your middle finger is supposed to push down on the 3rd fret of the E string. Make sure it does it here, right before the 3rd fret, and not right there. I mean, you have several points within the 3rd fret where you can place your finger. Try to be as close to the next fret as possible. Not on it, that's also not good, then you will sound pretty dead. But if you're really close to the fret, it's the easiest spot to create a note. I mean, you have to adjust it a little bit so your fingers all can be in the ideal position, but this could also be a reason that you're creating not proper tones there. To check that out, to check your chords, play one string after the other. So those three things are the most common problems beginners have when they want to play the guitar and they say it sounds not so nice, it sounds bad, my guitar's shit or whatever. Don't always blame yourself, of course. I mean, there can be something wrong with your guitar, that maybe the action is too low or too high. That might also be a problem. You know, the distance between the string and the fretboard. If the action is too low, it might sound buzzy and you will just have those noises because the string touches the frets at spots where it's not supposed to touch the frets. But the action could also be too high, so it's really hard to play on the guitar because you have to push down with so much power that you get the notes sounding, but still they sound detuned because you're pushing down so hard again. It makes it so stressful to change between chords. So your guitar can be a problem in that case and causing problems, but it might just be little things that you can alter and make you sound way better. Also, I always recommend to make dry exercises between chords. Take two chords, for example, like A minor and C, and make a dry exercise changing between the positions of the fingers without playing anything. Do that for 20, 50, 100, 200 times, whatever. In your tempo, try to change with the fingers all at once and really take a close look to your wrist and your hand, how it's holding how the hand is holding the neck, and try to have a natural hand position there, as natural as possible. I mean, we're doing something really weird by playing guitar to our hands, but you know what I mean. Take a look here, it's no crazy angles here in my wrist or something. The fingers work as economic as they can. They are as close to the frets as possible, not being here, but your C chord should be somewhere here. And of course, there's a stretching issue. Warm up your hand a little bit by doing something like this, for example, so you get some blood into your fingers. Then they're a little bit more flexible. Warm your hands up. It's really necessary if you're a beginner to get used to those stressful moments for your hands. So those are all reasons why your guitar might sound not as good as you want it to sound. Is it normal that my fingers hurt, that I feel pain in my fingertips when I play the guitar? Especially beginners might say, my fingers hurt, and I say, in a way, it is normal. I mean, you do something that is completely not common for your fingers and for your whole hand and arm and for your whole body. It's a total new thing. But if you check out the chord, for example, that you want to learn and you have trouble with it, or you have pain in your fingers by playing it, I mean, if you play your C major chord like this, for example, seems to be totally fine, but you can do so many things wrong there. I mean, if you just check the notes first, are they all there? Okay, all there. And then you go on, you play it again and again and again and again and again. And then you held that chord for 5 minutes or something like this without making a break. This is a problem. I mean, don't hold that chord for 5 minutes long without giving yourself a rest. I mean, this is crazy. This is the first example I want to give you. When you play a chord, don't play it, just grab it and then do this. You put your fingers in position, and then we come to the second thing. But let me say that first. You put your fingers into position and push down, lift the fingers up again. Don't leave the strings or something. I'm still in contact with the strings, but just push down and release the pressure. Push down, release pressure, and so on. You do that for a couple of minutes to get used to building up pressure, and especially you get used to releasing the pressure also. Also, you have to keep in mind, do I play the chord in a proper way so I don't use too much power to play it? Because most beginners have a pretty or not developed technique. I mean, of course they don't have, how should they? But if you take a close look where I place my fingers to play that very chord, the ring fingers right next to the 3rd fret here. You see that on the A string, the ring finger? The middle finger is right next to the 2nd fret, and the index finger is right next to the 1st fret. And if I play that chord, it works. But if I just move my fingers a tiny little bit, I'm still in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fret, but I'm on the wrong side of it, as you may say so. And this makes it way harder to create a sound. I have to build up way more pressure on my fingers. If I use the same pressure I used before when I put my fingers there, it will sound like this. This sounds awful. And this makes you, in that very moment, build up more and more pressure to get the sound, and you do like... This is hell right now. Really a lot of pressure, and just by moving it for this tiny little bit, it's so much easier, and a lot of people don't know that. So grab your chords in the right way. That saves so much energy, and this saves your fingertips, of course, too. And then you do the dry exercise at the very right spot. Just build up pressure and release it. And bring your hand and your wrist in the correct position. I mean, don't do something like this, or the thumb right behind the headstock, or something like this, or I don't know. I saw really weird things in my career as a teacher, and don't do it. Just place your thumb just kind of like behindish the neck. I mean, there are techniques to Jimi Hendrix style where you need the thumb, but for this, try to be with the thumb in the back of the neck. That's also easier than for you to actually grab the chord. And this also saves your fingertips because you can put the power where you need it. If you do something like this, your power gets lost somewhere where it's not needed. So then you have to build up more pressure to create the chords, and this hurts your fingertips too. But on the other hand, of course, it's normal at the beginning because you're pushing down metal. Your fingertips need to develop a little bit. Normally, fingertips are pretty soft, but after a while when you play guitar, they become harder. And you won't feel that much pain anymore. So another tip is just, if you don't have that much time on your hands every day, just try to grab it for at least 5 minutes and do those exercises with your chords. If you're just in a rush and in a hurry and you don't have that much time, just do that. Just strum it once, do the other chord, and do that for 5 minutes. This will also save your fingertips because you will get used to those techniques. And if you just grab it once every 2 weeks, this will be a problem actually, because your fingers don't get used to the pressure which is built up on the fingertips. So I hope I could bring some light in your problem concerning hurting fingertips or hurting fingers or whatever. Try to consider those technical advices in your playing. And if you want to learn more about those kind of stuff, if you're a bleeding beginner, check out my free lessons, which you find in the video descriptions. My name is Hannes, and we see us in the next video. Take care. Bye.